You too. Feeling good.
You know, true this, not new this.
Yeah, there you go.
I looked at Star.
You got this.
We got us. Okay.
Yeah.
Two mics.
The benefits of the fact that I've gotten so much travel experience is like once you cross-examine a cop, like you just don't get nervous about public speaking anymore. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Law student.
I know. I was gonna say it's the benefits of that experience. I know exactly. I know. No one like knows me. No one's made to be like angry at me or anything. I'm got a clean slate. I'm gonna try and seem as benign and inoffensive as possible. Thank you. No, yeah.
I feel like it's weird for us. Chairs right now. I told them that, but they were looking down. There's some.
I think if you're behind the podium, it takes away some of the I'm standing in front of you.
John, do you have a preferred side of the podium?
No. This is like really inconvenient.
Yeah.
Whatever though.
I was gonna say yeah, it's a little difficult to work, but
I'm like an anti-masker now. It's kind of bad. Do people hear me say that?
I was gonna say I think luckily everyone's distracted right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I'm very like got my vaccine, mask and everything.
No, I even got my booster shots, and now I'm like,
Yeah, I got COVID. It's the same thing as a booster shot.
Yeah.
But like if I'm in the study room alone, I'm sorry, like it's just gonna come off.
there are quite a few people here.
I know. I was gonna should we make an announcement that we're gonna give people a couple of minutes. We're gonna start a couple minutes later.
Should I say it? We'll get started in a couple minutes.
We're just gonna make it quick. If are we gonna wait a minute or two, or do you think everybody's here?
We're at
Yeah, let's get it
7:01.
to 5.
Okay.
Set on 5?
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're gonna wait until 7:05 so people get settled.
Yeah. Sounded really cool.
My voice, from the temperature change, my voice got like really yucky.
Oh, do you want me to make an announcement?
Can you tell people in Senate to just sit on the
That's where should I make an announcement?
or just
I'll do it.
Hey everybody. Hi. Hello. Hi. If you're an essay senator, can you go sit along the wall, sit on the floor, like let people have the seats? Thanks, friends. If you're comfortable, like if you literally can't, that's all right. But All right. Thanks, everyone. Sitting on the floor builds character. Thank you.
Does anyone have an extra mask? Wait, do that. Yeah, this is the
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a
how
little.
much charges are on this? What do you say?
I'm gonna awkwardly put that there.
Anyone should sit on the floor in the back.
Yeah, I was gonna say like there's not a lot of room in general.
I think we can start getting started with number 5 and we will trickle down.
Okay, so
What is your call?
Can we tell people, can someone have someone at the door close this door and have that door open?
closing the door. Should we get started? Good to go?
Yeah.
All right. So, hey everybody, it's about 7:05 now, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for your patience, and thank you all for joining us tonight for our town hall on diversity, inclusivity, equity, and the student experience. So my name is Zach, and I am a law student here at William & Mary, and I am a member of Student Assembly.
And I'm Genevieve Prabala. I'm a senior at William & Mary right now, and I'm also a senior senator.
So to get us started off, we wanted to find the purpose of this conversation and set ground rules as a group before we begin. So tonight we are here to start a dialogue about the student experiences on campus dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to listen to others' experiences, learn from one another, see how we can do better in our community, and see how we can walk away from our conversation to be the best community that we can be. Now, this is not meant to be personally directed at any specific individuals or interpersonal conflicts, but we want to move in the direction of holding each other accountable. We want this conversation to be productive. We encourage those of you who have shared experiences or who have shared experiences in certain spaces to elevate them here if you feel comfortable doing so. We urge you to stay away from defamation, antagonizing, or gossiping, and we ask you to be intentional with your words and be fact-based in as much of your comments as possible. If you are sharing a personal experience, please try to focus on the actions and the behavior itself rather than the person.
So for example, instead of saying this organization is terrible, try and say something along the lines of, I have felt as if I was not represented within this group due to insert example here. So we are here to keep this conversation on track and reinforce our ground rules, we being me and Jonavi. We are not here to represent any specific groups, nor to share our own opinions. We encourage you as the audience to hold us accountable if you feel like we're not doing that. So if at any point you feel overwhelmed, please do not hesitate to step out. This is, an intense and sensitive topic, and we want to encourage you to take care of yourselves as we have this dialogue.
Yeah, now we're going to set some ground rules, and I want to apologize in advance. I kind of lost my voice over the weekend. So we want to set some ground rules for our conversation to ensure a respectful, inclusive, and constructive dialogue. Here are some foundational rules that we would like to set. Using I statements, not generalizing the experiences of others. Approaching the conversation with an open mind and understanding the perspectives of others. Self-care, as Zach mentioned, please take the steps that you need to take care of yourself. If you need to step out, please do so. Let's be mindful for meaningful engagement. For example, organization X is an embarrassment versus how can organization X be its best self? Everyone has different experiences and everyone's experience is valid, and we need to respect each person and their validity. And lastly, please respect the speakers list, the facilitators, and the students in this room. Please do not speak out of turn. And before we go to the actual discussion part, do you guys have any other ground rules that you want to add on to this list? And you can just raise your hand if you do. Don't be scared. Okay, I'm assuming people, yep.
Hi guys, I'm Cody. I am watching the YouTube, and to keep that in mind whenever you guys are speaking, make sure you have a mic and are standing. The guy doing the camera will probably remind y'all as well. If you're not, just if y'all are comfortable so they can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. We're good? Okay, we're good. Let's go.
All right, so in terms of the format of the town hall, we're going to ask that you raise your hand to speak. We're going to follow a running speakers list. We're not going to allow direct responses in between speakers, which means that you cannot cut the line and immediately respond to comments. If comfortable when speaking, feel free to identify yourself with your name, your pronouns, and your social class. Please keep your comments to within 60 seconds if possible.
So in terms of discussion and discussion questions, we will be utilizing the stasis theory to help break down and navigate our conversation into 4 segments: fact, definition, quality, and policy. We will keep the conversation as organic as we can. However, for the sake of time, there will be a 10-minute limit for each segment. So we're going to have 4 main questions. The first one is fact-based, and as you can see on the screen, it's in which situations on campus have you felt that you have not been fully a part of the community? 2, define what sort of behavior is inappropriate or hurtful to you, and what forms does it take in place, and how often does it happen? 3, feeling, how does it make you feel? And this is open to everyone, as someone who is affected as a bystander, as someone who leads an organization or a member of one, or someone who's a friend or have heard of something. And 4, act, how can we hold each other accountable on the personal level? How can we stand up as a bystander? And how can we support each other? And with that, we are going to open the speakers list. Just a reminder, we are using mics, so please be very clear when you speak so other people can hear. But we can open up the discussion with that. Like we said earlier, it is very discussion-based, so.
We're starting with the first question of these 4. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so I'll just like start it off. Like it's not gonna be like anything like crazy, but like I just want to make everyone feel comfortable to start talking. I would say like sometimes in some of my classes, I don't feel like fully a part of the community. Sometimes like I'm a part of like classes that have mostly like male communities, and so that it makes me feel like, you know, my voice isn't always heard in conversations. So I think that's like really simple, and everyone can share something.
Thank you.
So has anyone here ever experienced a feeling similar to that? Can they relate to that? And if so, would you be willing to share?
And if not in like an academic setting, maybe in different parts of communities on campus, whether it be in your different student organizations, on a sports team, in friend circles.
Hello. I can speak from two perspectives. One, I'll kind of speak from something personally, and then the second, I can speak from what I've noticed of what other people have told me and what we've kind of had conversations about. Me personally, I think the students are pretty okay. Every once in a while, you may come up with a teacher that is, I guess, more so they kind of like their own thing in their own way. If you don't kind of fit into their program or something like that, or if they, or you may get the feeling that they may not like you as soon as you come into class or something like that. You know, you have every once in a while, you may have a teacher or two like that. For the most part, the teachers are okay, but you got that maybe once a semester or once every 2 semesters that you kind of have to worry about. You know, you may get extra points off because you didn't do something or carry yourself the right way in order for them to like it. So sometimes that part is hard. From other people, there's about 3 different anecdotes that I pretty much get from people. The first is, as you know, as you can tell, I'm a black man. And so when I go around in campus and stuff like that, you know, from talking with other black people, it's almost like a sense of we kind of have to stick together because there's hardly nobody that, I don't want to say it's like that, I don't want to use it as big as to say that people don't hang around black people as much, but it is kind of everybody doing their own thing more so, and that it seems like as far as from what I talk to black people, it's more so I do what I do and then get out. I'm in class, I get out. I got to talk to, if I got to hang or, you know, I have to be around the person situation, I do that, then I get out. I've also noticed too that significantly like a group of Asian people is kind of the same thing. And I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe that we can be as a student body or, you know, as a whole university be more caring or more to lend a helping hand to Asian people. Because I do see that a whole group of them and they all just hanging around themselves, all being by themselves. And I've often wondered what's going on. And so, you know, if I've talked to a couple of Asian people, and it's like, why is that? Is there anything that I can do, et cetera, et cetera? So I think that we can do more. And then the last thing is, I actually had a conversation on campus one time, and they were saying that I'm in the business school. So we're business school students, and we're talking about how on the business school, it's one way. You can be open politically about something, but they have the pressure of being a certain way when they're not in the business school. So those are three things that I've heard and kind of looking around and seeing from other people's perspectives that maybe we can improve on.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what he said. There's definitely this sense of within like minority communities that I do what I gotta do and I'll leave and I'll only hang out with my kind of people. And I think a lot of that comes from just the feeling that nobody else really gets it. Like whether you're whatever race you are, like if I'm looking at someone else who doesn't look like me, not automatically, but like once they start talking, there's this sense of like they don't really get it. And a lot of that I feel like comes from ignorance and not just really having that background to know like what someone else is talking about. Not just people just being racist, none of that, but just not understanding where someone else is coming from. And I think a lot of that can be improved from educating your own self on other cultures and just knowing that there's always more learning to be done.
Thank you guys for sharing. Is there anyone else there's one in the front here? Also, guys, as a reminder, I don't think we mentioned it before, but there are no administrators or faculty members in this room right now. This is just a room full of students.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm part of the Barefoot Club, and I started going barefoot like a month ago, and it's just a lifestyle that I've decided to try, and I've been really enjoying it. And Barefoot Club and the barefoot lifestyle has been getting like a lot of attention, and some of it's very negative, but some of it's really positive. But I've literally heard people like gossiping behind me, or like, as I walk around, and people who go barefoot are people too with feelings and are just trying something, and I feel like it's hard to feel part of the community when that stuff happens. And maybe if people stood up for, the barefoot lifestyle or lifestyles that are kind of novel to people, I think that is something that would be good.
Hi, I'm Will. I'm a junior. I'm Native American. I have Native American heritage, and sometimes, like in class, it can feel like it's a novelty to like talk about like people. Yeah, it's like a novelty to talk about that. Sorry, didn't realize I wasn't speaking to the mic. Like. Sometimes professors will just bring it up as like an afterthought, and also like talk about like our experiences as like this abstract thing or something like a case study to like look at. So I think with that it's just sometimes professors are older and don't really understand things, but that's just been my experience on campus.
We have one more minute. Oh, yeah, you can.
Am I missing something? Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Do I have to stand up? If you feel comfortable, you can sit down too.
I'll just sit.
Yeah.
I'm Suji. I'm a senior, and I just wanted to talk about my experience freshman and sophomore year being a part of an organization that I thought was seemingly very progressive and forward and accommodating to differences. And there was an incident, I'm not really going to go into the details because I don't think it's really necessary, but where I felt super uncomfortable and just not really cared for. And so, I did what I felt was best at the time, and I stood up for myself and tried to approach the problem in a constructive and cordial manner. And the response that I got, the first response that I got from one of the officers, I guess, was they just didn't understand what the problem was, and that was that. And I just didn't really know what to say after that because I feel like I kind of poured my heart out trying to explain to them what the problem was, why I felt really uncomfortable and uncared for, and it was just kind of shut down. And I just also think it's funny how, like, you know, this particular organization wasn't the most diverse, and the most of the leadership position was held by, you know, not like people of color. And for the person to tell me that she didn't understand my experience, so it was kind of like not really valid, it was really frustrating because I didn't know what to tell her. Like, I didn't, when I raised my voice, I wasn't trying to make her like understand from my point of view, but rather like that should be a little bit more accommodating, if that makes sense, as someone who held a leadership position. That's all.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. Thank you all for sharing that. And so for the define portion of our dialogue, we want to ask you, what sort of behavior is inappropriate or hurtful to you, and what forms does it take place in? How often does it happen? Again, I know this is a tricky topic, so thank you all for sharing.
Hey everybody. Oh, can you hear me? Okay, great. Hello everybody. So I'm just gonna put my little take on this question. What sort of behavior is inappropriate or hurtful to you? This has to do with professors. Personally, I've seen that when I go to office hours at a professor's office, I'm almost seen as if I instantly have a problem to address with homework or something like that, whereas my peers in those same classes are not addressed in the same way. I may go in and it's instantly, what do you need help with? Another peer may go in and instantly start connecting with the professor like that. So I just feel as though that's something faculty-wise that I've personally experienced, and I know that some of the same people in that class who are in a minority also experience. It just feels as though the professor sees us people of a specific skin color or, you know, cultural background as needing to get a question answered rather than just coming to understand the material better for what it is since it's been presented to us in class. So that's like my own personal take on that.
Okay, hello. Okay, something that I noticed is I don't want to speak for everybody, but in my own personal experience, I'll be bonding with people who are, you know, my friends, telling them what happened to me, my experiences, and then all of a sudden, like, some people start to play a game that I usually call the oppression Olympics, and like it's like they're trying to like, oh, I'll say like, oh, like somebody's calling me the N-word with the hard R. And then they'll be like, well, I think I have it worse because somebody called me this. And I'm like, oh, I don't think being oppressed or being discriminated against or being like, somebody being blatantly like disrespectful to you, I don't think that's something you should try and compare to somebody else. And I have noticed a lot of people doing that. And I understand like maybe that comes from some level of like, hey, I have an issue, like, look at my issue. Like, we should be looking at every issue, but not comparing the issues. And I feel like it is hurtful to try and one-up somebody when it comes to something hurtful that's happened to them, because you don't actually know how that could really affect them, because you don't know their background, you don't know where they came from, or how many times this happens. And honestly, people play this game with me a lot, and I think maybe we should stop comparing our problems and saying one problem is more valid or more important than the other, because they're all important.
If you guys raise your hands higher, guys.
Hi, I'm Amaya. I'm a freshman, so I haven't been here that long, but I wanted to talk about two experiences that I've had on campus where it just seems like the people in power or the people not of a minority group are not mindful of other people in the room that are of color. One instance has been at the Muscarelli, and a volunteer is showing us around, but this was before the tour had begun, and she was just having small talk, and she brought up, it was very random, but she started talking about like critical race theory and how she doesn't believe in it, and how like, I don't know, but she felt like it was just being pushed upon her and blah, blah, blah. And I was in the room, and there was another woman of color in the room, and it just felt like she didn't care or didn't notice enough to realize that that could be something hurtful that she's saying. And then another instance took place in the cafeteria, and I was in line, and two white men were behind me, and they started talking about what they wanted to be for Halloween. And basically the costumes that they started talking about were very offensive. And so, yeah, so again, I felt like they didn't care or just didn't notice my presence. So I think it's really important to, it's not always my place or it's not my problem to address how these other people feel, but I think that people in power or people not of color should notice the people around them, and what they say could hurt people of color's feelings.
Hello, my name is Tristan, she, her pronouns, senior. Just to kind of piggyback off of that, yeah, I feel like in some regards, people of color, or at least myself, is honestly just not even seen or like taken account for. I think this is so clear. I watched a TikTok that said that people, primarily white people, won't move over on a sidewalk when like black people or like women are walking past because they don't see them as people. And I've decided not to move out of the way of other people on the sidewalk anymore. And I've seen, thank you for the thumbs up. I've seen so many times within, this semester, having people walk 3 in a row, completely in a row, and then just expecting me to walk off the sidewalk. And, it might seem like a small thing, but like just having that knowledge, and that knowledge that I now share with you guys and everybody who's streaming, that it comes from like this innate, like mentality that you're not seeing us as people, just reinforces the fact that I don't need to walk off the sidewalk. Nobody should have to walk off the sidewalk. If, it's a group of 3 people, one of the 3 people who are walking the other way should walk backward, or like take a step back, and y'all should scoot over to accommodate. And I think that it's honestly just a way in which we see so commonly that people of color and other, minority groups have been so accustomed to shrinking themselves in the most minute ways, just like in everyday life, to accommodate people who should be having the simple respect of just moving over and making a space for them. And I think that, just be mindful of that when you're walking down the sidewalk, and because I will walk into you and not care.
That is an excellent point. I've also started doing that, and the amount of white people I have run into is insane.
Hi. I've noticed that I'm in a fair amount of classes where, like, technically it's fairly gender balanced, but it tends to be the men dominating the conversations. And I and my, like, female classmates have had a few instances where we've been, like, talked down to, and, like, the kind of thing where you answer a question and, like, the guy sitting next to you is like, that's not right. And then 10 seconds later, he's like, oh, like, I think it's this. And it's the same thing you said. And I had an instance where, like, we were doing group work, and a girl in my class just felt like really belittled. She was like the only girl in a group of men. And she went to the professor and she was like, please don't ever put me with these people again. Like, I felt super belittled and like not respected. And instead of kind of taking that seriously, he just like made a super backhanded comment about it in class the next day. And I don't even know if it's something that these guys realize that they're doing, but just like be mindful of how you're acting to other people in your classes, because it does get very frustrating.
I think we have time for one more.
Hi everyone, my name is Maheen and I use she, her pronouns. I would say a behavior that I feel like is a little bit inappropriate and hurtful is like when you are a POC or a person of like a distinct background, people expect you to know every single thing that is relevant to like issues that are related to that community, and like explain those constantly, and you like constantly have to feel like you're advocating for your own communities, which is tiring because you feel like other people should like attempt to at least like assist you in that advocacy, and sometimes it can feel like you're the only one trying to like support, you know, other minority communities, et cetera, in certain groups. So I feel like that can be hurtful.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to the third question. So we talked about a lot. You guys shared, you were vulnerable and you shared a lot with us. But how does that make you feel? And again, this is open to everyone, so feel free to share if you haven't shared already.
Hi, I'm Sydney. I'm actually on the Student Athlete Advisory Committee here on the Diversity and Inclusion Chair, so I'm really passionate about all of this. And so hearing everybody's stories and learning a lot about the things that do happen in the athletic department here, I am very passionate about making sure that people's stories are heard, and we talk a lot about what belonging really means. And so one of the things that we've done as an athletic department is really focus on belonging and coming up with the You Belong campaign to really make sure that people do feel like they are a part of the William & Mary community. And I think as a community and as a university, we could do a lot better with that. I'm someone personally who has experienced that kind of feeling, and so as a bystander to other students here who aren't student athletes or even experiencing that kind of part of the William & Mary experience, I do think it's incredibly important that we're fostering or creating a community where we can really hear each other and create like listening to each other's stories and finding out a way to really make sure that that person next to me is really feeling like they deserve to be in the room and feeling supported in that.
Hi again. Sometimes like being in a community where you can like count like all of the people on both of your hands, it does like make you feel like you have to like qualify like your experience, and you have to like prove to people, who you are. Like one time, like during my freshman year, like I told somebody on my hall, like we were talking, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a member of the Porch Creek tribe, and they're like, oh my God, like my great grandmother, she was like an Indian. I was like, okay, it's a little different, but like, it just, I feel like when somebody like tells you, like, oh, I'm a member of XYZ, like, oh, this has been my experience, like speaking, like going back to what somebody said earlier, like you don't have, like just because somebody experienced something or just because somebody is something doesn't mean that you have to have experienced something similar or be similar to them. Like it's fine that like you should be happy, honestly, that like you haven't experienced certain things. So it's like it does feel very belittling when you like have to like prove to people, So that's just how I feel.
Hi again. Yeah, I just wanted to add with everything everyone was saying, with all the instances, for me personally, it just makes me feel invisible, which is not a feeling that I feel often. I feel like a person who talks loudly and often. I make my statements heard. If I feel something, I say it, and I just feel like so confused. Like even in like chem lab, like people will not listen to me. People will like straight up ignore me, and I'm like, am I not talking loud enough? Can you not see me? Like what is going on? It makes me feel literally invisible and also so frustrated. Like what do I have to do to make you realize that I am a person who deserves to be heard? Like I talk loudly, so that's not the problem. Like I just don't really understand like where that's coming from and like how to make people understand it's not okay to ignore people. Like whatever you think someone is saying, like it's not a stupid question. It's not dumb. Like listen to them and hear them out.
Hey again, guys. So yeah, how does it make me personally feel? Going back to the whole professor example, it almost makes me feel as though, and I know some people here can attest to this, it makes you feel as though you really don't belong in the community. I'm gonna be completely honest. Everyone sitting in this room did something amazing. We got to William and Mary. You know what I mean? Some people never thought they'd even get to college in their lives. But the fact that I was almost dismissed, and it was almost as if I was instantly looked at as having to have a problem solved and not just coming to talk about the material in my classes, and almost made me feel as though, for lack of a better term, dumb in my class. It almost made me feel like maybe I can't be a STEM major at William and Mary. Maybe I shouldn't even be here right now, but I know that I worked very hard to get here. And me personally, I never thought that I could even get to a college like this. You know what I mean? I never thought that this caliber of education was never even in my realm of going to, a higher education. So it almost makes me feel like some faculty and some other people who are really, really close to us in the community, it just almost makes me and them feel as though we're like dismissed, almost like we're not seen, even though we're here. We're just kind of like on the, like in the background, in a sense. So yeah, that's just my take on the whole thing right there. How does it make me feel?
I kind of feel like it's the opposite. I feel anything but invisible when I'm here. I'm Vish, by the way, sophomore. I feel like all eyes are on me all the time, and people are like waiting for me to F up. Like there are people who live in Lud. I'm gonna use an example that happened literally during Halloween weekend, who threw a function, and yes, there was alcohol present and underage people who were there. However, so the RA came and knocked on the door, and they said, I need the IDs of someone who owns this apartment, and points at me. I did not own the apartment. However, I was also a brown woman. So I ended up giving my ID to her. So I have a meeting with CVRP tomorrow on, I don't care if y'all know this, but I don't know. I felt as if this literal racial targeting was enough of a punishment, but apparently, I was not drinking. I was not involved. I was in the bathroom. I heard the music stop. I walked outside, and RAs asked for my ID. And I was not associated with any of the rule breaking that was involved with this function. However, my name was immediately put to it because she knew that the owner of the apartment was brown. So in that way, I do feel as if people of color are targeted, because there's also a group chat for this building. And every single day, there's a group of white boys who say, hey, we're gonna be partying today. Hey, there's gonna be noise at 5 p.m. today. And the RA has yet to catch them for some weird reason. In that way, I do feel as if all eyes are on me. Another way is my friends stopped going to the rec, because whenever they go down to the weight room, they feel as if getting asked hey, do you need help with that? Oh, you need to fix this for your squat. Don't look at my squat. Let me do my thing. So in that way, I feel as if we're not invisible, but they're doubling down on the eyes. Yeah.
name's Delaney. I'm a junior. My pronouns are she, her. And I've seen, like these behaviors aren't specifically also directed at students. It's towards the faculty members as well, like the facilities workers. I've seen people in my own building be disrespectful to them, and I'm an RA, and I've told them to be respectful and pick up and do everything that they need to do, and try and teach them how to be decent human beings. And I still see these issues happening, and it's not just in my building. Like, I've seen it at Marketplace, I've seen it in other dining halls where people will just walk up to the people working behind the counter and just be like, "On that," and then treat them like robots essentially, and treat them less than, because they're still people at the end of the day, and like they are working to help us make sure we eat and just make sure our buildings are clean. And the disrespect I see towards them hurts me a lot, because they're very kind people if you take the second to talk about them, talk about their day.
Back.
Hello, my name's Taylor, and I'm a sophomore here. And I would want to say, as a student, but also as someone that advocates for a lot of groups on campus, I've truly noticed how people, like here, it's so easy to strip someone of their humanity and the basic respect that they deserve, whether it comes to using their correct pronouns, when it comes to actually listening to them in academic settings. It just feels very demeaning. Like, one experience that I can truly say that made me feel like I do not belong here is having outside Williamsburg individuals say, "Wow, you're kind, go to William and Mary. Like, you actually get accepted here." That was so demeaning, that the sheer factor that you don't even think I have the academic capacity to come here. And I'm like, damn, that's really what we're doing. And even in classroom settings, when you work, I'm in government, mostly white, mostly male. When you get in that group and they automatically assume you know nothing of the course, I mean, nothing, you're just there to look off their homework and pass the class. 9 times out of 10, I've noticed their stuff be wrong. But that's besides the point. But in general, I just want to be like, can you guys respect people's humanity? Can that be something we take into our community? Respect people. They're people first before any judgment you can make about them. They're people. And that should just be enough for us to respect each other.
All right, thank you all for sharing. And so we want to move on to our last question about action. How can we hold each other accountable on a personal level? How can we stand up as bystanders, and how can we support each other?
Hi, everyone. My name is Bryce. I use she, her pronouns. So just speaking from different leadership positions on campus, working here with Student Assembly, I think that initiatives like this can never be done alone. This is something that always requires collaboration, and I think sometimes that can be a frustrating part of working in organizations, is because we all want to be able to do it alone sometimes. We all want to have that control and be able to see the change happen. But knowing that change takes a long time and it's always going to take support of others. So I think having conversations such as this, being able to always listen before we speak, is so important, so that when we do have these issues, that we can go about it with collaboration and not just as a single person on our own.
I think that we can do better when it comes to ourselves and how we treat other people. And I think we can do two things. I think that the first thing we can do is try to talk to somebody, especially with somebody that you feel like is probably the most awkward for me to talk to. Like if I feel like this person, I mean, I get this person, that's the person you need to talk to more than anybody else. And I know it's a hard thing, and I've had experiences in my life where, I've been hurt throughout my life, and so sometimes it is hard to open up sometimes, so I understand the feeling, but the rewards can greatly outweigh the bad things. And as much as, yes, I've had a teacher in this school tell me, like, are you sure you want to go up there and be in the business school? Are you sure you want to be here? Don't you want to be in another major? And it's like, you know what? That was really disrespectful what you did. But on the other hand, I've had teachers like, and I'll shout out his name, Professor Skimmenhorn, who has helped me out tremendously, and so it's going to outweigh the benefits, when you do go out there. You may get burned a few times, you may not like it, but some of the people that will help you out has been tremendous. So that's one thing I can say about women married. When they do help you out, it's very good. But the second thing that I think that we all need to do is look inside ourselves, and that understand that what we may feel may have some validity, but it doesn't make it moral all the time, but it does bring validity. And sometimes you have to look deep inside yourself. You have to analyze yourself and see, like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned in my life because, so for an example, you have a lot of people get, hating on feminists and stuff that you hear these days. And it's easy as a guy to go up and sometimes dismiss it because you think of your struggles as a guy sometimes. And especially with some of us or, growing up, it's like if you don't have money, if you're not tall enough, or if you don't have this enough, if you don't have that enough, you get disrespected every second of the day. So you kind of really be like, I don't really want to hear this. I really want to hear that. But one of the things that I can say personally that opened my eyes is one time I was looking in the magazine and I saw some women in the 50s. There was different pictures of women in the 50s. And what struck me out was they was all housewives, but they was all dressed in their own unique type of styles. And then it hit me because I looked at things as a guy as if you don't have this accomplishment, you don't have that accomplishment, you're not worth anything, at least to a lot of people. But I didn't see the other side of it that it's like, what about the people who do be successful? How much praise do they get even when they don't do, even when they do wrong? If you look at, say, like Paul McCartney, for an example, he probably will never get a traffic ticket ever again because of what he did for the Beatles. But when I compare it with other women and I compare it with those pictures, it was like those women had different styles, had different personalities, had different identities, but yet being seen as a housewife. And that's when it kind of hit me. It's like the flip side can also be true, that those women can invent something, can do this, can do that, and do all these sort of things and not be as recognized as a man would. And that's when it started to hit me that because we're always thinking about equality, but how much have we thought about valuing people? How much have you ever thought about if a woman conquered this or invented this or did that or did this, how much do we value them? And then it starts making more sense on TV when an actress wins an award, and instead of asking, what did you do? How did you get yourself, to fit this role or that role? They ask, when is she going to have a baby? And it's like, man, that's kind of disrespectful. I just kind of won an award. I kind of did this. I kind of did that. Why don't you talk about my accomplishments? Why you got to talk about, what my makeup was or this, that, and the third? And so that's something that I had to look deep inside myself. And not to say that some of the things that God struggles with aren't valid, but it's a little bit more nuanced to look at things kind of bigger than yourself. So I think that if we all kind of purposely try to talk to people who may be different than us and then hear what people are saying and kind of look at things as what's bigger than myself and willing to look deep inside yourself, to improve and to grow, I think that that's what will help everybody.
this general direction.
Yeah, we'll take one, and then we're going to read some comments from our anonymous forum.
Hello, everybody. My name's Olivia, and I'm a freshman. I think something, at least on an academic level, professors need to do a better job of being a support system for their students, whether they have 10 or 100 in a class. Several times already in my first semester, there's been professors who have told me that I should drop the class before it even started, and that kind of sets the scene, like, is that going to be my experience for the rest of college? And it makes me not want to ask for help, because then they're going to already be like, oh, she's not capable of it already. So yeah, I just think they need to do a better job of supporting their students.
So I'm going to read a comment, or a couple comments that we got from our anonymous forum. One of them is, the Greek life on campus is allowing for a culture in which students are made to feel unsafe. A few weeks ago, I was walking home with some friends, and one of them was called the F slur out of nowhere by what seemed to be a fraternity brother leaving a date party. Incidents like these, I have heard, have been occurring with alarming frequency, and it seems that no one in organizations nor in the administration is taking the effects of their racism, homophobia, and related behaviors seriously. Does anyone have any? Yeah. I'll find another one after.
Hi, everyone. My name is, should I stand up? I guess I can do that. Okay, I'm standing up now. Whoa, I almost tipped over. But my name is Caroline Donnelly, and I'm a senior here. And the conduit through which I've gotten involved with DEI work on our campus is through Greek life. And so when I was a sophomore, I joined Pi Phi, and when I was a junior, I co-founded the Panhellenic Committee for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And more recently, I've been involved in supporting those who were directly harmed by the incident that happened at a mixer between a sorority and a fraternity at the beginning of October that was written about in the Flat Hat. And although my involvement through DEI is in Greek life, I'm kind of using DEI to frame my argument for 2 DEI consultants that our school really needs to hire to support the student organizations on our campus for coming up with goals relating to DEI and their specific organizations that are specific, measurable, and sustainable. Because William and Mary has administrators that are intended to support these things, but we do not have enough support on the ground, tangibly, on a day-to-day basis. In preparing for this town hall, I realized that we have a chief officer of diversity and inclusion who I did not know existed until this week. And that, to me, is an example of how we need more resources, again, that are tangible, helping student organizations. William and Mary loves to boast of our extracurricular community, over 450 clubs, over 30 multicultural organizations. But when it comes time for these organizations to develop accountability structures for setting up like ways that DEI is going to be continuable in the future, those resources don't exist. And as someone who's been doing this work for Greek life for 2.5 years, I'm happy to do it. The work needs to be done. But it is too much to put onto unpaid undergraduates that only have time to prioritize these things at the end of their own busy days. So even the phrasing of this question of how can we hold each other accountable is, to me, underscoring how, like, why are we putting this on ourselves? Like, yes, obviously everyone on an individual level needs to be doing more to think about these things and constructively criticize the groups that they're in. But I don't think our school, those who are getting paid the most, those who have the most power to actually affect all these things that we're talking about, are doing enough to support us in actually reaching those goals. So these 2 DEI consultants, I think, are a really comprehensive way to get there, and I would really love for SA to help students such as myself get this on the formal financial agenda of our school because it feels like such a direct way to address some of the things that have been talking about tonight.
We have time for one more comment and kind of going off that, any sort of action steps.
Hello, my name is Lace Grant, they, them, please, and class of 2024. I serve on SA as Undersecretary of LGBTQ+ affairs, but also I have a lot of different intersecting identities that are invisible, and one that I talk about a lot, but not everyone knows about me, is that I am an autistic individual. And that is definitely something where I do participate in Greek life, and I'm very upfront about it, but I will say that during going through the recruitment process this year, I went through many instances of both ableism and also transphobia as someone who is non-binary. I initially was afraid to bring this up, but I was misgendered by a sorority on campus multiple times during the recruitment process, a situation that made me feel unheard, unwelcome, and it almost made me just quit right then and there because who am I to have a place in this situation if I am not heard for who I am? Especially now as I sort of look at how we can hold each other accountable, the one thing I want to say is that the one thing that's hurt me the most is how infantilized I felt throughout a lot of this process. People forget I am a human. I am autistic. That does not mean that I need to be baby talked to. It does not mean people need to break things down for me. It means that I am a human. Sure, I might process things differently. I might have sensory issues. Maybe I need to leave a room when it gets too crowded. But the way that I felt that DEI for me, and many of the people I've spoken to have tried to talk down to me, like they think they know more than me because they are an able-minded person, is absurd. And I feel like there's definitely this atmosphere at William & Mary I've noticed as an autistic person where, especially within the classroom setting, that where people who are neurodivergent, people who have autism or other conditions are definitely infantilized. And it's one thing I really want to bring up because this has happened to me in Greek life, this has happened to me in academic settings and extracurricular settings, and it's something that just needs to be addressed because I'm representing myself. I'm not representing autistic people. I am a person who happens to be autistic. I have a person who happens to be non-binary, and all of this facilitates who I am, and going through my DEI experiences, having to navigate this misgendering experience as an autistic person where I felt so infantilized and unheard it was an experience, I can say. So I just want to bring to the table for how we can hold each other accountable. Listen to the people you're talking to and don't assume they need to be babied, that they need to be coddled, comforted. They're people just like you. Their experiences are just like yours in so many ways, and they are here to fight. They are not here to be comforted.
Okay, I think our facilitators are going to read some more comments on the forum so we can all hang tight.
One of them is how William & Mary didn't have housing for students with nowhere to go during the pandemic. They made me feel homeless. I'm just reading a couple, guys. It's not really related to any of the four, but how professors are approaching students with the COVID-19 pandemic, in my experience. Professors do not offer any online lectures or notes for students with COVID or attempt to accommodate students like previous semesters from different communities. Will there be any rules or guidelines for professors to follow to ensure that students from different identity groups get class materials and do not fall behind? What are some steps being taken to include South Asian hate when discussing racism and microaggressions against Asians? Yeah. We're going to take two more comments and then from you guys, and then we'll end it.
Hi, this is answering the last question. Something we can do. one of my biggest fears, especially joining groups, is being tokenized, because I've been like tokenized my whole life. Like I've just been like, oh, she's just the black girl they're friends with. And I feel like if you're friends with somebody of color, they are not just a person of color. Like, what if they like to draw? What if they like to sing? What if they're really good at art? Like, there's more to somebody than what you can see on the outside, and that is something that we can do to make people feel more welcome and make people feel more like make people want to join groups that may be dominated by a particular race or sex or like gender or whatever. Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And another thing is like don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, because I did like kind of grow up in a place where it was just like sometimes people would talk down on you. That's just how it was, like that you couldn't change them. But like we're grown. Please remember that. Like you don't have to take that. And I guess sometimes we're scared of being like, well, for me, I'm scared of being like, oh, looked at as like, oh, she's ghetto, or oh, she's just like talking out. She's an angry black woman. And it's like you're not an angry black woman if you say, can you please not talk to me like that, or can you please treat me like a human? Because at the end of the day, we all deserve that. We all got in here, and nobody deserves to be like looked down on for anything. So please just remember that you are not disrespectful, you are not burdening anybody, or you aren't like somehow doing somebody a disservice by standing up for yourself, because at the end of the day, like you're human and you deserve to be treated right. And you're grown. Like you don't have to take that.
Hi, I'm Richa. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a freshman, so I haven't been on campus for too long, but unfortunately, as a woman of color, I have faced a couple of microaggressions, especially in my dorm. And these are from people that we interact with on a daily basis, so we did want to bring it up to them and help them understand. But after we did, it did feel like they were kind of avoiding us and choosing not to interact with us, and we realized that was because they felt like they'd been attacked or uncomfortable in the situation. And that kind of just made us feel sort of like we didn't do our job well, but we realized later, like, and the thing that I want to point out is that if you are part of a community of color, or even any marginalized community or minority community in general, it's not your job, or you shouldn't feel obligated to educate other people. While you might like always hold them accountable and bring up certain things to them, you should not like, if you're not part of that community, you should not expect other people to educate you, and you should not expect them to make you feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, they are going through something that you have never or will never experience. So if you're uncomfortable, that's kind of the point, because they've been uncomfortable pretty much their whole lives.
I think we're going to take one more comment back here.
Hi, it's me again, Taylor. So I think just to build off of what the last few individuals said, I really want to build off that we're adults. That's the first and foremost thing. We are all grown adults. We're all here in college, and I feel like we're at the point where you shouldn't be coddled anymore. And then there should just be a basic level that a lot of people know if you've done something that's a little shady, a little shisty, or you feel like you've done something that you think has like made a certain individual feel some type of way, take accountability for it. That doesn't make you a coward, that doesn't make you ignorant, but I hurt someone. I need to apologize for that, and I need to grow. And then I feel like from this conversation as a whole, I don't want people to feel like they're personally being attacked, but just please reflect upon everything that has been said today. Everything. And be like, you know what? Not everything applies to me, but maybe this one little thing does. I need to walk out of here, and I need to make that positive change so I can be a great person in our community and I can befriend more people. I think that's the main thing. I don't want people to walk out here like, dang, they just beat down on me with all these issues. But no, just be real human people. Be nice to each other. Like, but just be nice and be kind and just learn how to grow. That's why we're in college. That's what we're here to do. But yeah. Oh, thank you guys for coming too.
Oh, we have one more person that hasn't spoken today, and it's Aiden. Guys, I literally read a comment from the COVID town hall. How stupid am I?
Hi, everyone. I'm Aiden Gossett. I'm a senior, and currently I chair the Conduct and Honor Advisor Program, which is chapped. For y'all who haven't had to interact with us, congrats. I'm really glad for y'all. For those who have, I hope we've provided a service. We've been helpful. We really strive to do that. We have operated through 3 major incidents, starting with Chegg last summer, and ways you can act is amplify each other's voices when there's something outrageous happening. When we had 70 plus students going through the large scale case process who had cheated, the school wanted to suspend everyone, but it was like large public outcry and the fact that the school was not taking into account the pandemic that brought those sanctions down and brought this like new focus on student welfare. Then we had COVID, we've had the HART process. That fall semester, everything was done on a 48-hour basis and students were kicked off campus and they lost housing and that was it. And we really felt for everyone. But then in the spring, because of the outcry that students had, the process was extended. It was moved to 72 hours. It was a lot less likely for you to lose on-campus housing, and they took into account what kind of housing situation you were going back to. And currently the battle that we're fighting is the Honor Council wants to move from an election process to a selection process. They are the punitive body on campus that decides what your sanction is if you violate the honor code. By moving to a selection process, it becomes completely insular. That punitive body is insular, and they create a homogeneous population. We don't want that. We want a diversity of views on that. And what you can do is you can talk to your senators. You can tell SA not to back this. You can talk to Meghana, Zenobia, John, all of that. And we fought really hard so far to keep that out. And so we'd really appreciate amplifying voices on that. Thank you.
So, all right, we are going to call, so we got one more? Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry. Hi, my name is Gloriana. I use she, her pronouns. And I think that one of the most important ways that we can hold each other accountable on a personal level is just to like normalize kind of holding your friends and like your own peers accountable. And I kind of have a couple of examples of like what I mean by this and how helpful this could really be. I mean, like a few days ago, I was in a room, most of like straight white guys, and like it was just, there was only a couple of girls. Like it was like me and like one other girl. And they made some very offensive jokes. Like the first joke was like, there was a Kappa mixer a couple of weeks ago maybe, and the theme was like, go in a t-shirt with like a lie, and they said like, oh, like it was really funny, like someone wore a t-shirt where they wrote like Black Lives Matter on it. And I was like, how is that funny? Like I literally just told them like, how is that funny? And not a single person like stood up for me. Like they just kind of dismissed me as though like I was saying, like I was just being like an emotional girl. And like it was just the other like girl in the room like stood up for me, but like none of the guys stood up for me. And the one that was my friend like apologized afterwards and was like, oh, you're right, like that was wrong, that wasn't funny. And I was like, then why did you laugh and why didn't you say anything to your friends? Because like that would have been so helpful when like your voice isn't being respected, to like have a voice, like especially when you're like a man and like your friends will only respect your voice and they'll dismiss the women's voices as like being like too emotional or whatever. Like it's so helpful to like hold your own friends to account. And another example is like, as a girl, like something I feel like I experience often with my friends is like, you know, just being like, for example, when like someone's ex, or like, yeah, like when your ex is kind of like hooking up with a new girl or like going out with a new girl, something I hear a lot is like, oh my God, like I'm so much hotter than her, like blah, 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 like why did he choose her, you know? And
to that, like, I feel like something that, like, I've been trying to, like, call out more is, like, why do we continue, like, reducing, like, other women to, like, just their looks, like, valuing other women on just their looks? And, like, that's something that I've been calling myself out on and, like, other, like, my friends out on, like, pretty constantly. And I think it's really hard when you're, like, in a group of your peers to be like, hey, like, maybe we should reevaluate, like, how we talk about other people. But, like, it's very helpful because, like, as long as, like, the other person takes it well and doesn't, like, take it as a personal attack, it can be extremely, like, helpful to hear it from someone whose voice you respect. And, like, I know when people, like, call me out for my behaviors, it really makes me, like, rethink things and, like, change my behaviors in the future. And it's been, like, very, very helpful for me to have that from, like, people I respect.
Okay, we are gonna take that as our last comment. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I just want to reiterate, the point of this conversation was not to target any one organization, any one student group, academic, professor, whatever, but it's about to reflect in your own spaces where you are and how you can potentially, again, how can you hold yourself accountable, how can you keep your friends accountable, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I want to take a moment to thank the Sadler Center staff and audiovisual staff with helping organize and broadcast this event. And then finally, I would like to thank you all for engaging and for being vulnerable and for being very respectful of each other and your perspectives. It's a very important conversation. We are really grateful that you all took time out of your schedules to come and participate in it. So. Thank you all very much.
And if you guys have any sort of like action steps that you do want to work on with Student Assembly, our contact information is on the website and our social medias as well. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Also, members of Student Assembly exec will be outside if you guys have any concerns that you want to address with them right now. Thank you. I forgot to read it. That was my job.
It was you scrolling like, how the hell can I?
Yeah, I think it went very well. Yeah. Fireworks right now.